Hello, it's Susan Duclos from All News Pipeline. It is November 5th, 2014. We're starting over on Steve Quayle's website on his alerts, where California women developing brain aneurysms, 3 dead in the last 2 months and 1 paralyzed. It is an email from somebody to Mr. Quayle. It says, Steve, my wife and I attended the WSR conference and she was baptized by you and Pastor Langford. On July 4th, she collapsed with multiple ruptured brain aneurysms, followed by a massive stroke. She's only 33, with no medical history or prior symptoms. She's alive but severely disabled now. We have 2 small children. The reason I'm telling you all this is that since my wife's incident, 3 other women that we're friends with have had the same thing and died in the last 2 months. Their ages are 22 to 40, none with pre-existing conditions or symptoms. We all live in the Bay Area of California, and I'm wondering if this is being caused by Fukushima radiation or chemtrails. Have you heard of any other incidents like this? Tell my wife, I've never met anyone with brain aneurysm. Now 3 of our close friends are dead, and my wife is struggling to survive. Coincidence? I don't think so. Now I understand that everybody listening to this believes in dreams and visions, but he does have a message from a friend of his, Rami. And it says, Steve, it is no coincidence. As I read this, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said this is exactly what has been happening, and it is a direct result of Fukushima nuclear wastes that have reached the West Coast. His wife and their 3 friends who died from the same condition have been quietly poisoned by what has come upon them. But the doctors have been warned never to share or tie these incidences together, or to cost them their jobs and reputations. I got this immediately from the Lord as I read John's email. Now, there's much more to this. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to this and everything else that I'm going to show you in this video. There'll be a link in the article associated with the video. Now, after publishing it, I do have to embed it into the article, so it does take a few minutes before the article will be put in the details. Just have a little bit of patience here. Now, after reading this, where he asked, have you heard of any other incidents like this, I started doing Google search. Now, that also I'm going to put as a hyperlink in the article associated with this video, because sure enough, if you type in brain aneurysms or brain tumors or both with California obituaries and just do a search from a range. Last year is what I did, but you go back a couple years even more, and you're going to get many, many more hits which had gone totally unreported. And sure enough, absolutely none of the reports on them, the local reports, are connecting the incidences at all with Fukushima or radiation. So I'll go ahead and put those links in there, but I did want to I went over to the Barrow.org, which talks about brain tumors, and down here it gives what causes brain tumors. And there are 4 different reasons: age, family history of brain tumors, immunosuppression, and number 3 is the interesting one. Exposure to radiation is listed as a cause to brain tumors, and it says people who have been exposed to a type of radiation called ionizing radiation have been increased risk of brain tumor. Now, examples of ionized radiation include radiation therapy used to treat cancer and radiation exposure caused by nuclear accidents or disasters. This will be linked also. Now, this brings us to a couple interesting points. Back in, what was it, January, InfoWars, we're taking a look at Geiger counters. People all over the place on the West Coast were bringing out Geiger counters and finding high radiation, and that was back in January. And global research here from The Truth gives 28 signs that the West Coast is being absolutely fried with nuclear radiation from Fukushima. Some of those include the polar bear, seal, walruses along the Alaska coastline suffering from fur loss and open sores, epidemic of sea lion deaths, population of sockeye salmon at historic lows. Many are blaming Fukushima. causing fish along the west coast of Canada bleed from their gills, bellies, and eyeballs. Now, the mainstream media is connecting none of this to the radiation coming from Fukushima. But we did notice, and I first reported it in, I think it was, September 21st, 2014, to where right after a report by E&E News that the leader of the Fukushima study stated intense radiation exposure was headed towards the U.S. coast with the plume traveling very fast and that had high concentrations would impact the West Coast. It was brought about to our attention that from Mid-American Land Restoration Microbes and Probiotics that readings were disappearing. We're talking very, very high readings on the West Coast, like this one was 588. Now, normal is anywhere from 30 to 50. You can just look it up on Google, what they consider normal background radiation, 30 to 50. You're talking 588. These are danger levels no matter who's reporting it. Problem is nobody is reporting it. And then all of a sudden, those were taken offline. They just disappeared. And the same thing in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Very high radiation levels. Boom. But then all of a sudden, Albuquerque just disappears. Now, the explanation for that is that the government's taking the filters out so they can determine what type of radiation is causing these high levels, and they put new filters in. And of course, boom, radiation levels are all the way down, and then they rise again. And then back in October, it happened again. It got so high, they took the filters again, and boom, just disappeared. These were up to 470 and 625, and they just were taken offline again. Now, if you have a chart, you can see anything over 50 or over 60. Once you start hitting 100, I mean, you're getting into danger levels. 500, even more dangerous. Shelter or leave immediately. I mean, so if you connect all of this up, it's not being reported. The disappear. Sorry about that, lost sound. I'm almost done though. The disappearing radiation levels, the warnings of radiation hitting us, and we've had these warnings since 2011 when the earthquake and tsunami hit Japan's Fukushima. They said it was going to be coming across. They said we were continuously being battered with the radiation, but that huge plumes were coming at the beginning of 2014. So since these brain tumors and aneurysms take time to develop, if we're seeing the consequences now in more people getting brain aneurysms, dying, suffering strokes, and it's not being reported, what are we going to start seeing in a year or two? Is it too late to save California? I mean, is this really the end of the West Coast, the beginning of the end, I should say? These are all questions that should be asked, even if the answers come out, no, it's not. But nobody's asking. The mainstream media is avoiding connecting. And that man, Rami, I believe his name is Rami, he could be right. These people could be threatened. Do not connect these incidences or you'll lose your job. We don't know because nobody's reporting on it. These are questions that need to be asked. And these mainstream media people, they need to start reporting on this. People need to push them. They need to tell them, I mean, they're investigators. Their job is to inform the public. Why aren't they? That's the question. Why are they not informing the public? Thank you.